We got one more minute to go, Paul.
Okay.
29. Start till 8:30.
That's good.
So prompt.
That used to be the municipal liquor store.
Apparently. This morning.
Okay, we got that. We're gonna do this.
Yeah, your person isn't here as of right now, anyway. So.
Right. So,
We are ready to go whenever
Yeah.
you are.
ready, Mr. Chair.
We're ready.
Okay, is it 8:30 now?
8:31.
8:30.
Okay, I'd like to call this February 18th Board of Commissioners of Meeker County to order, and please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I'm very glad to see that our second screen is up and running.
Yeah.
They got it up last week, and it's a little bit larger than the last one was, so hopefully it's a little easier to see.
Good, good. Is there anyone from the public here who would like to make comment today? Hearing none. Are there any additions to our agenda for February 18th?
Not today, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the agenda as presented.
Motion by Commissioner Schmidt. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Samke. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Andrew, our consent agenda, please.
Today we have approval of the February 4th board meeting minutes, approval of the Health and Human Services County and Hospital accounts payable, approval of temporary liquor license for Darwin Rod and Gun Club, approval of an amended aquatic invasive species committee bylaws, and that is the consent agenda.
Okay, is there anything that someone wishes to have pulled out to the regular agenda? If not, then I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Olberg. Is there a second?
I can second that.
Second by Commissioner Van Ort. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Ann Steinhaus. Your annual report.
Hello, I'm Ann Steinhaus. I'm the county feedlot officer, and I'm coming to get a signature on my 2024 county feedlot officer annual report. And this report just encompasses the things that the MPCA gives me credit for in the year, so it's not the entirety of my position, but it is what the MPCA pays us for, how we get our grant. And I also included the financial report as well for your reference.
Any questions of Ann?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
And, so every year when you go through your inventory, or you rotate around, you do about roughly the same amount of inspections a year?
I do about 40 inspections a year, give or take. 20 or so are counted towards the MPCA. The other are CAFO sites, so sites that are actually not registered through me, but permitted through the MPCA, but they are on construction CUP, county CUPs. So they are sites that, as part of their conditions, are required to have an annual inspection. So that encompasses the other half of my inspections that you didn't see in this report, because MPCA does not pay us, or pay us is probably the wrong term, but they are not a portion of our grant funding from the MPCA, so they aren't included on the annual report that I bring for signature.
So I guess my question is, how often or how long does it take you to basically go through 100% of your inventory on inspection? Is that like a 3 or 4 year cycle, or is there a method to the madness a little bit, or?
No. I don't know. I'm still doing sites that have never been inspected in the 20 years. I do 5 new sites every year.
Okay.
And then these sites, and then sites So there is a method to the madness.
Okay.
I do 5 new sites every year. I do all the CUP sites that are required. I do any sites that are requested to be inspected. So if you get a farm loan through FSA, USDA,
Yep.
you're required to have a compliant inspection. So those inspections are completed. And then any complaint inspections, obviously. And then if I have free time, I'll hit some more. But usually that pretty much fills up my plate because there's additional work that's done here. Plus, I'm not a full-time feedlot officer. It's about 70% of my job. So that pretty much encompasses it. And new things happen every year. This year, there was a wetland restoration by Grove City that impacted a feedlot. And so I worked with the producer, Fish and Wildlife, and MPCA to try to figure out how to keep that feedlot in compliance while meeting the contract that had been signed with Fish and Wildlife and was brought in after the fact. So it was, that took, I think, 5 site visits and a bunch. So, I mean, there's other stuff that isn't here that kind of makes.
Absolutely. I was wondering how long it takes, like, to
honestly
get
don't
through
know.
a county inventory of feedlots.
I'm
if-
starting my 6th year, and like I said, I'm still doing ones that have never been done in 20 years. So
Okay,
I try to hit at least 5 of those a year.
okay, thanks.
Sorry, I ramble.
No, that's a good explanation.
So can I ask, is the total number of feedlots on this report in the county, is it 276, 271, is that? Or is that just the portion that's covered in this
That's the total
report?
in the county.
Okay,
276, 271. So the base number is set, and that's what we're paid off of, and that's set every 4 years, every 4-year funding cycle. The 276 is I'm currently registering sites, so sites are coming on and going off. And so
Right.
this is,
It's a
one is
floating,
Yeah.
floating balance.
static number, one is a floating number. The ones, if you look at number 8 and number 9, those would be sites that MPCA would have jurisdiction over. And the rest of the sites are 5, 6, and 7 are sites that I have jurisdiction over.
Mr. Chair? Is the avian flu adding anything to your plate, or?
Yes and no. I'm not directly impacted by it, but I do try to limit my inspections when there's an active case in either Meeker County or one of our bordering counties.
Okay,
I don't always know where there's an outbreak other than, because it's a need-to-know thing. I'm not part of the emergency management chain, so I don't always know, but I will know because the MDA website, or Minnesota Board of Animal Health, I apologize, will post that there's an outbreak in XYZ county, and so and it kind of gives you the radius, so I have an idea where there is an outbreak, but I don't always know exactly which
would it be
site.
helpful if you did know that information? I mean, perhaps you could get on
Stephanie's very good at if I ask. Sometimes it is during the time of year when I'm heavily inspecting it.
maybe you just need to be added to the communication. I don't think that would be a huge deal, would it, Andrew?
I don't know. I don't believe so. No, that would be an issue.
Might be a good idea, because, we heard some more about it at the CHB meeting the other day, so.
Yeah, it did impact me this year, as far as just really kind of limiting some of the inspections. I don't want to be the vector, if that makes sense. Even,
Thank you.
So Ann, it used to be not a requirement, but an expectation that a member of the planning commission accompanied you. Are they still?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, that's, actually, it's written in a lot of the CUPs that they have. It is actually a requirement in most of the CUPs.
I think I got lucky because the year I was on planning and zoning was 2019, and we had all drive-bys. We would drive up on the lot, never were allowed to leave the vehicle
Yep,
to do the inspection.
and most of the poultry inspections are that way even, they have been since 2016, or 2015. That's before my time, but when the last big high path outbreak. Now, we're still in the 2019 one, if you look at it. USDA still considers this from a global standpoint because of trade. They still consider this outbreak that we're currently in, the 2019 outbreak, because there hasn't been in the US a long enough gap without an outbreak somewhere. So for global trade reasons, it's still considered the 2019 outbreak. But yeah, since the 2015 one, on poultry sites, we've only been doing drive-bys. Now that it's extended to dairy, I don't quite know how I'm gonna handle that. I only did a couple of sites this year, and it was before that. I shouldn't say that. I only did a couple of the CUP sites, that were dairy sites, and it was before the outbreak had transferred. A lot of the barns, if they're confinement anyway, and you've been on inspections, if they're total confinement operations, there's really not much to see. There shouldn't be much to see. Let me put it that way. I've been on a couple of poultry sites after High Path has gone through, and the sites aren't as clean after. I mean, they're still working on cleaning up. There's feathers and mortality dumpsters, things like that.
But the actual on-site is only a portion of the inspection you do because you're going through records and so forth.
Correct.
So
correct.
that's just a portion of it.
Yeah, oftentimes, in fact, one of the non-compliances this year that you see on the 2024 report was the records, the site itself was fine, but they didn't have their manure records the records themselves were compliant. They had the 3 years, they had everything they were supposed to have, but their nutrient analysis, their manure sample was 6 years old. So I had to put in non-compliance for that. They quickly regained compliance, but the manure records are a large portion of my job. And permitting, shutting LMSAs, we shut a pit this year. And one thing you'll see is I had 29 performance credits, which is now they are being more generous with performance credits this year, so it's not just extra work that I've done. But the county will see money back for that at some point.
Okay. Any other questions for Ann?
No.
I don't think we have any action on this. This is,
We typically get a motion to approve the report.
oh, we do, okay. So I would entertain that motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve, feedlot officer's report.
Okay, a motion by Commissioner Schmidt. Is there a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
Second by Commissioner Olberg. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Ann. Randy, Matt, and Scott.
Morning, everyone. Randy Fordyce with Excel Energy.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Matt Langen with XL Energy.
Good to see everyone again, and good to see new faces as well. Happy to run through some of the basics, as we know we do have a couple of new commissioners, and then, of course, answer any questions about the current status of the transmission line project that any one of you may have. As a background for all of you, the Minnesota Energy Connection Project is a proposed transmission line that would run about 175 to 180 miles between the Garvin substation in southwest Minnesota in Lyon County and the retiring Sherco power plant outside of Becker and Sherburne County. We have proposed this project to replace the coal-fired electricity generated at the Sherco plant with a renewable energy generated in southern Minnesota, one of the most wind-rich areas in the country, that'll enable us to reuse that existing grid connection to continue serving customers throughout the upper Midwest. Don't think we've mentioned in the past, but Excel Energy serves 1.8 million customers throughout Minnesota and another 500,000 or so in Wisconsin, several 100,000 others in the North and South Dakota. Really, it's part of our integrated system to be able to serve customers throughout that region. A couple of permits are needed before a project like this can be built. One is a certificate of need, which we filed in early 2023, that generally just states what are the issues that this project would solve for any large energy facility, whether it's a transmission line, a new power plant, those kind of things. The commission will evaluate that, what issues need to be solved in terms of serving customers, evaluating cost, engineering designs, alternatives considered. Is a pretty lengthy list of various reviews that fall into that certificate of need. And then, of course, the thing that when it comes to transmission lines, what most people are interested, the route permit. Where will the line actually go if it's approved? And I've got a couple of maps in the coming slides that we can take a look at, and Matt can provide some more specific examples of how that would affect Meeker County. But in terms of the route options themselves, we came out and started working with landowners in late 2022 into early 2023, had what we called kind of the spaghetti bowl worth of maps that we presented to landowners that were a couple hundred, maybe individual segments, Matt, from end to end, that we held open houses, asked for feedback on, had an email and project line that we asked people to send us information about, incorporated all of those comments into our continued review and meetings with, boards such as yourself and other local government officials to eventually come up with the route permit application that was filed in October of 2023. And then kicked off kind of the state's regulatory review. And then as we get to Meeker County, Matt, do you want to talk about kind of the blue and the purple and then the Meeker County specific issues?
Yeah, thank you, Randy, and thank you to the board for having us back. Randy and I certainly are going to be available for questions. We'll go through some of the routes and the state review, talking about the stage that we're at right now in the state's review, and provide as much information as we can, and then certainly open for any questions that the board has. You see on the screen the map of Meeker County and the routes that are under consideration there. Those include not only routes that XL Energy originally proposed in our application that Randy talked about in October of '23. Those routes are very simply the blue route and the purple route. But then also as part of the state's review, they ask individual landowners, federal, state, local agencies, if there are other routes above and beyond what XL has proposed that ought to be considered as part of an end-to-end route. And so on the map, you see some pink routes or route segments on there as well. Those are route segment alternatives that were proposed during the state's scoping process, proposed by the public and accepted, and are sort of fair game for the commission to approve in the end. So that is the host of routes that are available as part of an end-to-end route that could be approved by the commission, the Public Utilities Commission through Meeker County. And so, Randy, why don't we go to the next slide and we can talk a little bit about the stage that we're at now. Yeah, there we go. The stage that we're at in the state's review process. So, as Randy mentioned, XL Energy undertook a number of steps and public outreach opportunities before we ever made that application to the state. And then once we make the application to the state, there are a number of different public input opportunities along the way. And so the state has hosted public information and scoping meetings in early 2024, like January and February, and then actual public hearings just this last fall with an administrative law judge that were conducted in October and November. Based on the information that's gathered at those meetings, as well as an environmental impact statement that's prepared by the state on the various routes that are under consideration, the Public Utilities Commission seeks to develop a record of information. And that includes all of the available routes that are under consideration. Ultimately, they are looking for the least impactful route between project endpoints, and that's really the commission's goal. XL Energy, originally, when we proposed a purple and a blue route, did not state a preference. It's our job to propose two routes for a project like this, and so we did that. But after we developed that record and really got to understand and analyze the various impacts of not only the routes that we proposed, but those that were proposed by the public as well, we developed a preferred route, an Xcel Energy preferred route, and we call that here the modified blue route. The reason for that is we believe that our blue route is the less impactful of the two that we proposed, but also that some of the suggestions that came in from the public actually do a better job of reducing impacts than what we originally proposed back in October of 2023. So we've incorporated 6 or maybe 7 of the public's proposed route alternatives along our modified blue route, and that's the route that Xcel Energy is supporting. Since that time, the ALJ, the Administrative Law Judge, has come out with her report and recommendations. That was just released on February 5th, so just a couple weeks ago. And in it, she agreed that the modified blue route does the best job of reducing impacts between project endpoints. So the modified blue route has the ALJ's support and recommendation. And then our Department of Commerce also, who prepared the environmental impact statement, generally prefers the blue route and believes it does the best job of reducing impacts. Now, all of that said, so we have Xcel Energy and the Department of Commerce, the Administrative Law Judge in support generally of the blue route. It is the Public Utilities Commission responsibility to approve and designate a route between project endpoints. So we are not done yet. We have not got that final approval. We anticipate that Public Utilities Commission to occur in April, probably the April 10 meeting, where that decision will be made on the certificate of need and the route. So that's where we're at in the state's review and kind of what's next. We do have a couple slides to talk about after that decision is made. Just some information about once that decision is made, then our easement acquisition process would begin. We would contact each individual landowner where there would be transmission line right-of-way on their property and begin to negotiate not only a payment schedule, but where their land might best be accessed, where the actual transmission structures would go, and see if there are ways that we can still further reduce impacts on the property once we have a approved route by the commission. So it's right of way. We would seek to acquire an easement on the property. Landowner still retains ownership. There is a buy the farm law in Minnesota, and so if we can't reach an agreed to price for the easement and the landowner wishes for Xcel Energy to buy their property instead, that is something that the landowner can avail themselves of in the state of Minnesota. A little bit about current landowner outreach. We are looking to gain some access on properties to do some environmental survey work ahead of some downstream federal permitting that we need to do with the Army Corps of Engineers. So I don't know if any of your constituents have contacted you about that, but that's a voluntary, that's a voluntary access that landowners could approve. If they don't want us on the property until that PUC route selection is made, that is fine. And let's see, that actually, and it's an important point too, we are not yet seeking easements. That's really just access to the property to do some environmental survey work. And then a little bit about the construction process. What we're anticipating is, easement and engineering work would really occur still in 2025, and construction activity would not start until 2026, and then it would last through 2028. Yeah. So you can see the overall timeline. 23 and 24 were outreach and developing permit filings. 25 is when we expect the decision, and then construction 2026 through 2028. And last piece here, in terms of just information sources, we do have project-specific website where I think a lot of, if your constituents have questions, you can send them to. Not only is there really good information on there, but there's an interactive map that we think is pretty user-friendly. Type in your address or your area of interest and it zooms right in. All of the potential routes that are under consideration are on that map. And then if you or anyone you know wants to get in touch with a project team member, we do have a project-specific toll-free number and an email address that rolls right to Randy and my desktop. And I think we've been pretty good about, if we're not there to pick up the phone right away, get back in touch with folks within 24 hours, or certainly send us an email and we'll respond within that same time frame.
Couple quick things before we answer questions that I'm sure you have. Wanted to make one more note about the public comments as it relates to both the ones we've received through our website, phone number, and mailing during the open houses, and those that the commission has been hearing. As you can imagine, landowners are extremely interested in this project. We've received personally hundreds, if not up in the thousands, of individual comments at either the open houses or through some of the various forums. The docket on the PUC's website has also, just filled with hundreds of comments that go directly to the commissioners. The county attorney mentioned the kind of a letter that you have received along with it being sent to the project team and the Public Utilities Commission. So those have also been received, and I know they're probably in the tens, if not hundreds, of those talking about property rights and things like that. So all of those things, whether it's the pre-application comments that we received and then included in the route permit application, the comments received during the comment periods open, from the scoping process, the public hearings, and those sent directly to the commission, are all evaluated as part of that decision that'll be made in early April on both the certificate of need and route permit applications. So just wanted to call that out, and I think we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
If you could go back to slide 4, number 4, please.
This one, which was early on.
Yeah, it was 4. There. I gotta find it on here. You talk about a sunflower substation. And I know you've probably discussed that with me before, but, what exactly, how much area is that going to, consume, and what is it? Yeah, sunflower substation, it's on slide 4. It says sunflower substation sitting area, it's not on yours, yeah, it is. It's the little bullet point off to the side there, yeah.
Mr. Chair, thank you for the question, and good question. We do have a few substations that will be part of the development of this project. One is a very endpoint down in Garvin in southern Lyon County. That's going to be a new substation. There is what is called a voltage support substation that's at roughly the midpoint of the line, so between that Garvin substation and then all the way up at Sherco. So about at the midpoint, we need to have a voltage support substation. It is called out on this map. We've named it, we have to name our substation, so we named it Sunflower. And so that area is generally right where you see that tag, and you're right, it is within Meeker County. The parcel necessary for that substation is gonna be a 40-acre parcel. The impervious surface, the footprint of this substation will be maybe up to 30 acres total at its largest build-out. And I believe that accommodates for any potential future equipment that needs to be placed in there. So that's the size, and it is, we do have a substation siting area worthy commission to approve the purple route. We have, some area designated there for that as well.
Yeah. And I also, you talked about alternatives put forth that you looked at. I see there's a spot there where it runs near Cosmos, where it's running on adjacent to Highway 7.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, but that's not your preferred, it's still the blue.
Yes, so, right, actually, if we can talk about that area of the map, and I think I'm following, so there is by the, as you.
Down to the next slide.
Yeah, let's.
Go to the next slide, which has the counties.
Yeah, that's helpful. So there, what we prefer, there's a couple things in that area, in that discrete area. So we do recommend following the blue route as we're going south along Highway 15, south to Cosmos. Highway 4, south along Highway 4, as we're headed towards Cosmos. And then you can see that before we get to Cosmos, it jogs west right there. We are aware, right at the corner where it begins to jog south again, there is a FAA-approved airstrip, a licensed airstrip, rather, in that area. And so we are proposing to use a slight bit of the pink route that runs north and south. It's going to be to the west of Cosmos there, to avoid that landing strip and then jog back to the blue route. So it's just a little bit of a jog off of the blue route to avoid that FAA licensed airstrip.
Most of the blue route does go through, I believe, Commissioner Schmidt's area, mine. But I'm seeing a connector A and connector B also. And they are,
So connector A and connector B are not part of the preferred route or the ALJ recommended
okay,
route.
so they're on the, all right.
Right.
Yes, go ahead, Steve, sorry.
No, thanks, Mr. Chair. Couple of questions. 5 years, 25 years, 50 years, 150 years from now, what is the life expectancy of the structure that you're putting in? And what is the process if this route's ever abandoned at whatever time that is? I mean, who gets the concrete? What's in the footing and who takes care of that?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Commissioner. So, first to the life expectancy of the project. So, Xcel Energy builds 345 kilovolt transmission lines to have a minimum 60-year lifespan. That's the spec that it is built to. What we find, however, is that they last much longer than that. We have routine maintenance on lines like this, and so with that routine maintenance and upkeep, they often are on the landscape past 100 years. We have many assets within our service territory that are of that vintage. So that would be the expectation here, that it would outlast that 60-year lifespan. Were it to ever need to be decommissioned, let's say, so a couple things that we know about that. First, we are regulated by the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission, and there would be a structured decommissioning and permitting process if we're 100 years out and wanting to remove the line. And we would have to, as a regulated utility, have the funds in order to do that, and we would. In terms of the what we would do, so we've decommissioned, for instance, some wind farms before or repowered them. And so there would be many of these materials that would be recyclable, the steel that's in the transmission towers. So we would, recycle that material. Most of it, all of it is really glass and steel. And then in terms of the concrete, our state pollution control agency would have us remove that to a certain depth below grade, and then again probably have an opportunity for recycling of that material as well.
What is the depth of the footing for these towers, for a tower this size?
Good, thank you, Mr. Commissioner. So it's going to be a range that I'm going to give you, but it depending on the soil, the substrate that you're working at, and then the type of structure that's above grade, it can be anywhere between 20 and up to 60 feet in depth. Yeah, but I would say that for a vast majority of them, approximately 20 feet in depth is going to be where you're on, high ground, flat substrate, probably about 20 feet in depth.
The only other question, and I made this point at the administrative law judge in Kimball that night, and that it's just my biggest beef with the project, and it's not with Xcel, is the state of Minnesota and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, federal and state lands in the state, and just that if we're burdening the taxpayer with a public utilities project, the state and federal government should share in that same burden as the taxpayers of Meeker County. That's really thought on that. Unfortunately, that isn't how they see it. But, I do want to be on record.
Understood.
Mr. Chair?
Yep, go ahead.
You have a couple of photos in your slides, the second one and one towards the end. Is that what you anticipate this will look like? That's pretty typical.
Yeah,
That's,
and Commissioner, thank you for the question. Yes, we wanted to use photos of what would be built. And so what you see on the screen here is a double circuit 345 kilovolt transmission line. So that's like two 345 kilovolt transmission lines, but we put them on the same structure rather than having two separate transmission line rights of way. And so that's why you see conductors on both sides of the tower. And then the material that's used is a Core 10 or a self-weathering steel. And then the height of the structure is, our typical height for the project is gonna be 140 feet above grade. Now, that can vary, again, depending on topography and soils and if we've got an airport nearby, you know, that kind of a thing. But typical height is gonna be 140 feet. And then the right-of-way is 150 feet in width, and that's 75 feet on either side of the center line.
okay.
And that's what, and that's the area that we'll seek as an easement from landowners. And the purpose for that area is for us to be able to operate and maintain the transmission line.
So basically, when I go up 94 towards Alexandria, that's the poles we're going to see and the wires. Now, my question goes to this. Is there room for expansion? So if all of a sudden there's a greater need, we're not talking about another set of poles. right?
So,
Are we?
Mr. Chair, good question. And actually, there were two questions in there. So the first question, yes, what you see along I-94 going up to Alexandria is a double circuit capable transmission line. There's an open position on one side of them. This would be the full
noticed that.
build-out
Yeah.
version of that. But similar heights, similar rights of way with that project. Just that's a galvanized steel rather than the self-weathering steel. And then in terms of expansion, I will say that this is a double circuit 345 is a full build out of this line. And we wouldn't be able to expand on this. I guess theoretically you could go to a higher voltage and replace this with something else into the future. But we don't, have any plans for that. Right now, we are building this as a full build out line, double circuit capable 345 to replace that retiring coal-fired generation.
So these
Mr.
poles
Chair.
will have wires on both sides of them in all the positions, because I know on the way up 94, you do not see all four positions utilized.
Mr. Chair, that's correct. And I guess two notes on that. Were there to be any changes to this line or, like Matt said, the theoretical increase in voltage, it would have to go through the exact process that we've been going through the last 2 years with the certificate of need proceeding. And related to the project along I-94, we're in the midst, or actually we've received approval after going through a certificate of need and route permit application, almost identical to this, to add that second position to that. So we can't make any changes to infrastructure without the commission's approval, and their processes are pretty well set in legislation.
Okay. Steve?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So will this project, will this increase capacity, or is this replacing, or is it a combination of both?
Thanks for the question, Commissioner Schmidt. It is to replace the energy that's generated at the Sherco interconnection, and the federal laws and rules that govern the amount of electricity that we can deliver at that is set by what's called the MISO tariff, the Mid-Continent ISO. They manage the regional grid, so it's to replace the energy that's generated with other projects, including the solar projects that are currently being built just outside of the Sherco plant, and then the energy that'll be generated in southwest Minnesota.
So are we adding any capacity to our infrastructure is
We're adding energy, but not direct capacity, if that makes sense. So there will
Okay.
be more energy added, especially since wind is intermittent, so we can add more than what can be delivered at any one time. But the amount of energy that's delivered at the Sherco plant will remain the same, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Mr. Chair? I'm just curious if you know, how big of a negative impact does this have on farmland when it's put on somebody's property,
Yeah.
if
Madam
any?
Commissioner, thanks for the question. I'm sorry, were you?
No, if there is any, I mean, maybe there's none, I
Yeah.
don't know.
So the area within the 150-foot right-of-way, we do seek to negotiate an easement with a private landowner, including someone that's using that land for agriculture. If it's being used for agriculture, the terms of our easement allow for farming practices to continue within that easement. Obviously, at the location of the actual transmission structure and the foundation, that is out of production now, but everything else within the 150-foot easement can be farmed, and that's a very typical standing term of any easement that we sign with the landowner.
So Steve, maybe, I'm curious, if you have this on your property and you go to sell it, is it a negative? Or do we know? I mean, I'm not saying you didn't.
Well, I think there's the biggest, some of the biggest concerns that I've heard, and I think that I would concur with would be, irrigation is obviously something you guys are gonna have to work around. Drain tile. I mean, those are the physical challenges of operating around them. That was my other question in earlier on the decommissioning, or, what happens if they change a route, and I know that's happened at different times where they move a utility for a mile or two and you abandon certain pole sites, who's stuck with that concrete in the ground, or how is that taken care of? So them are kind of the biggest obstacles that I see is current farming practices and how it impacts them and how they're willing to work with them.
Yeah, I can address a couple of things, Commissioner. One, regarding the drain tile and things like that, we're responsible for any repairs that need to be made, and our land rights agents do a pretty good job of explaining that and then keeping in touch with people. Oftentimes, the farmer may not know exactly where the drain tile is located if it was put in 10 years before or something. We tend to, hire somebody local to say, we're gonna need you, during construction for a couple of years afterwards, or we can pay the landowner directly if they discover the next spring that things aren't draining and need to be repaired a year or so after construction has occurred. We also do matting and things like that when we're moving equipment within the right of way to make sure that we limit the possibility of damage. Regarding moving a structure like this, that's pretty rare. But again, we discussed the decommissioning and the process that we would go through for that. Irrigation, Matt, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, certainly. We're aware that center pivot irrigation is big in this area and to the north in parcels. And so what we try to do from a routing standpoint is stay along field lines or property boundaries. And it's our expectation that that irrigator still can function completely in a 360 degrees. And then we take that into consideration as we develop our pole placements as well, if we've got a parcel that's got an irrigator on it. If that situation's not possible, then there are other opportunities for mitigation, but that has been very seriously considered in the routing of the line to not interfere with those irrigators.
Thank you. I just have one more question, Mr. Chair. So is this project far enough along so political winds aren't gonna change anything? This is gonna go forward? I hear you talk about wind. I'm hearing some negative things about wind. This is gonna go forward no matter what.
Well, Madam Commissioner, we know the commission's gonna make a decision sometime in April. I think that's as far as I would make a prediction, but we expect that, we expect a positive decision based on the record that we've seen. Again, though, I always say I'll never predict what the commission may or may
I
not do.
understand. Thank you.
And Beth, to your point too, on the value of land, that's the $1 million question.
That's what-
Really,
right.
it's a tough
Right.
one to answer from.
Have we sold,
Here.
do we have any history on it, what happens? Yeah, I don't know.
I know I've asked you this before or read it. What's the footprint again for each pole?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So Again, it's a range, but between 7 and 12 feet in diameter is what you'd see above grade, and that the steel structure be placed on top of.
Could you make them look a little prettier, cause they're, I just, we're driving to Alec, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Christmas lights
Christmas lights
Yeah,
would be nice.
that would be
How about
great.
that?
They don't have electricity there. Go ahead.
Question, is there been any studies in terms of health effects on people and how close these are to homes or?
Yeah, there sure has. And as a matter of fact, the environmental impact statement that gets prepared by the Minnesota Department of Commerce on this, so, Xcel Energy puts information in our applications relative to public health and any impacts and what the many studies over the last number of decades have been on this. But also that's evaluated by the independent Minnesota Department of Commerce. And so if you or, any of your constituents have questions about that, there's a pretty good section in that environmental impact statement. Not only as a write-up about this project, but then the resources that are available out there for further study, if you will, on the subject. So, yeah, that's a big part of this. Certainly, your constituents have questions about that as we go through our public meetings. So pretty good information. I like to steer them towards that environmental impact statement for their information.
Any further questions from anyone?
I don't, thank you.
I had just one comment. I know, stray voltage has always been a concern in dairy. And you're gonna obviously cross close or on or near dairy facilities. Is there a mitigation process to work with those dairy industry to make sure that we're doing the best? I mean, 'cause now we're getting back into my state. I don't like it on wildlife and things like this, but apparently a Holstein cow don't count as wildlife. So, I'm just wondering, what is your process to work with the dairy industry in particular? It's just an example I'll use, but, on stray voltage issues.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Mr. Commissioner, and that's another question that we get as we have the public meetings. Also, another thing that's studied in the environmental impact statement. But what I'll say is, from an Xcel Energy standpoint, very often the issue of stray voltage comes from a distribution system rather than the transmission line system. So what we ask is that individual landowners, if they're experiencing any of that phenomenon, that they get in touch first with their local distribution provider, energy provider, to make sure that everything is set right there. Now, but we also are happy to offer services. We have electric engineers. We had one that would come around with us during our public open houses who does a very good job explaining this and has the engineering degree that I do not. But he explains that with proper grounding and properly operating equipment from the distribution standpoint, there should be no concerns about stray voltage in the confined animal operations. And so Xcel Energy has a stray voltage guide that we offer to landowners and a process that we follow to work with local distribution companies and individual landowners to eliminate any stray voltage impacts at their property.
Commissioner Schmidt, to add on to that, we can do pre and post testing as well if that's requested, and it really helps identify where that stray voltage could be coming from. It's often an issue either with, an on-farm or, on-property wiring that can be properly grounded, whether it's a pump or something like that, or something with the distribution system itself that can be corrected.
I know, yeah, there's various reasons for it. If after this transmission line gets placed near somebody, they have issues. They're gonna be looking at this project. I just wanna make sure that it's at least on the radar and being talked about.
Yes.
With these, when you're near these dairy operations. That's all I've got.
Everyone okay? Ask their questions and, I shouldn't say okay, that was probably wrong.
No, not everyone's okay, but.
Well, I'd like to thank you for coming in and bringing us back up to date and where we're at. it seems like no matter how many times you present this, I come up with a different question than I had the last time. So, I'm sure that the folks that are affected by this are having those same things, so we appreciate the fact that you say you're trying to get back to everybody within 24 hours too, because it is an important issue for the folks in Meeker County. So, well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good day.
Barb Block.
Yeah. That's why. This one's
Morning, Commissioners. Barb Block from the Property Records Department. And I have for you today a summary of the delinquent taxes. Do we have those slides in your? Okay, so.
They have it in the packet.
So the first slide or the first sheet that's in your packet I'm gonna talk about is the annual collections and how we track the collections and look at trends. So for 2024, we were pretty much right on track with the first payment in May settlement being 55% of the total levy. In October, it was up to 82, which is slightly lower than the 84 the previous year. When we ended in November, which is our collection of more ag land, we were at 97.8 and ending the year at 99.09. That lets us with 0.901% uncollected, or $148,000 of the current year tax only. That is slightly larger than what it was the previous year or several years running. And if you look at your chart there, we weren't high at 165 in 2020. So we always watch those trends and see how our dollars are coming in terms of the reporting to the board and giving you the health of the county. Also, on the bottom part of that report is all remaining years. This includes 2024 plus any other years that are unpaid but not forfeited or cleared off. And that's at $208,000 at the year end. Again, that number is slightly higher, but definitely below 2020. So our trend is in the wrong direction, if you might look at it that way. The second report that we do is the comparison of the total levy amount, total levy of government funds, the amount collected and the amount uncollected. This is uncollected actually of December 31st, because we don't do another settlement with what comes in January when this report's done. And again, that's 0.901%, the same total I gave you just a little bit ago. In the bottom, I've just left a 10-year spread for those that are new to seeing these reports to see where those numbers go. And any one of those can be just a larger taxpayer paying at a different time frame as well. So sometimes we see some hardship that doesn't get paid until into January, February, and they will be called delinquent taxes. They run on the unpaid after the first of the year. So those numbers can vary quite a bit by just sometimes a single taxpayer or two. But it gives you the health and sort of the trends that are there. Are there any questions on those two reports and how we put that together?
I'm just curious, do you ever look at other counties and how do we compare?
Once in a while I do, and we talked about this, whether they report to the board. Some do, some don't. Most of them go through their budget committees, so I don't necessarily have that as a public document. There's certainly, is on the Department of Revenue, you can see some of these trends as well.
Okay. Any questions for Barb? And I believe this was informational
It's
only.
informational.
So,
To add to the information only, this morning I handed Andrew a very important document in my life, in that I am tendering my resignation as retirement time has come around. And I'm doing that effective May 15 from full-time employment, and I'm certainly available to help with some contracted time and things like that to bring our staff up to speed.
So you'll be running
it's
the
been
elections.
25
You'll be
plus
doing the
years.
elections again. I knew it. I'm so,
It's bittersweet, 25 plus years is a long time. As I was home yesterday going, what am I gonna do every day? But it's also a load off of my mind to not be planning for all of the things that are happening, and it's time for.
well, congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for 25 years, yeah.
we know those decisions are tough
They are.
because they feel so final and they are final, but,
I sort of chose a time that was a little bit
Ain't a
more in
funeral,
the less busy of our office.
Yeah.
If you want to go as, right after first settlement is done, and we're doing the tax statements right now, that's kind of I always, when I push that last button to say, here's the tax statement, I hold my breath, because what could I not have seen? Or what might have happened in there. So there's certainly a load that goes with you each day to know that you're doing it right.
so which commissioner district do you live in?
Which one? What do you knows?
Probably be running against them in a couple of years, huh?
I'm a resident of Sweet Grove.
So, well, thank you, Barb. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank you,
very
Barb.
much.
Thanks, Barb.
Thanks.
Greg Schultz, our land use director.
Morning, Greg Schultz, Land Use Director. This morning, I just have one item, and that's the Lindbergh Excavating application for an IUP 16556, and this is for aggregate mining and processing in the southwest quarter of the northeast quarter, Section 4, Township 119, Range 29 in Dassel Township. This site has been a site for many years. It was first permitted in 2008. So far, approximately 8 acres have been mined, approximately 73,000 tons taken out of it over this past 6 years. Total projected to be mined, the next 6 years will be about another 5 acres, so total mining will be approximately 13 acres after the next 6-year period. 80,000 cubic yards of materials as well. Total life of the pit is expected to be about another 15 years at current usage rate. What they do is they process material with portable aggregate crushing equipment, screens and conveyors. Minnesota DNR Appropriations Permit 2170-229 was obtained for Doug Pond, and that's where they get their wash water for washing the gravel. Stormwater discharge is regulated by the MPCA through MPDS SDS General Permit MNG 490655. This project does not discharge stormwater to surface waters. Everything's retained within the pit itself. Natural drainage allows stormwater to drain to the interior ponds that are on the site. There's a reclamation map that is along with this that is set to bring the land back to 23% slope, and this permit is for a period of 6 years.
Questions for Greg?
Already existing, so
Right.
pretty simple.
And there, looks like when they went out and visited it, it looked like it was well-kept and, it's a good site.
One question on scrap metal, but they're gonna get rid of that as soon as the weather permits.
Hearing no questions for Greg, is there a motion?
I will move, Mr. Chair, to approve interim use permit application number 16556 to mine, wash, and process aggregate in an A1 agricultural preservation district in the southwest quarter of the northeast quarter of Section 4, Township 119, Range 29 in Dassel Township with the conditions.
Mr. Somke, Commissioner Somke's made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Van Ort. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Tacoma? Take the seat that's hot.
Good morning.
Before we start, I have a question.
I don't know what that meant.
I have a question
Yes.
before we start. I was told at the CHP meeting that we've been pronouncing your name wrong. What is the proper pronunciation for your name?
First, sorry, let me ask, how do you pronounce my name? Let me just hear.
So, say Chakuma is what I've been saying. Is that wrong?
I would just say it's fine.
But I would like to,
What,
I would like to know.
So no,
Right, correct here, that's all. I might not remember, but
Chukuma.
Chakuma.
Okay.
Well, isn't that what we've been saying?
True, as in
I've been
true.
saying Chacoma.
Why I say is fine is because.
I know, but it's just, it's important to me, so, thank you.
bet.
Why are you red? Sorry, carry on.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm presenting about the Meeker County Health and Human Services Public Health Department. So as you know, Meeker County Public Health has, we have a mission to promote health, to prevent diseases, and to protect all those who live in Meeker, who work, learn, and play in Meeker County. We also have the goals of promoting healthy lifestyles, preparing for emergencies, reducing health inequities and inequalities, and improving quality of life. Now, I can't give you a complete history of it, but there's the short that I can give you. Meeker County Public Health was established by the American Red Cross in 1920. However, most of you know that in 2024, the Meeker County Public Health and the Meeker County Social Services joined to form one agency, the Meeker County Health and Human Services. This is just a small video of when you enter into our unit. We are located at the Meeker County Government Center, which was formerly the Family Services Building. Of course, our address, 114 North Holcomb Avenue, Suite 180, Litchfield, Minnesota 55355. I just took this small video to show you the small layout of our area. These are some of our staff who are happy to include themselves.
I love it.
Of course, we have some rooms, examining rooms, where we meet our clients. And the first room you saw before was where our staff accepts our clients. And within is our offices where our staff work. Now, what do we offer for the public? We have a series of programs, and there are a lot, because even some of these programs that are listed here have sub-programs under them. But I don't want to keep you all here to talk about everything. I'll just talk about a few. WIC, WIC, this is the Women, Infant, and Children program. Child and Teen Checkup, Healthy Homes, Child Passenger Safety, SHIP, which is the Statewide Health Improvement Partnership, Dental Health Program, Immunization, Family Home Visiting, Project Harmony, Health Promotion, and Follow-Along Program. Now, the WIC program, WIC, it provides additional food, nutrition, breastfeeding, education, support, and referrals. This program provides lactation-trained staff who accept calls, texts outside of the WIC clinic hours. What happens here is that there are some particular staff that can actually listen to clients. They will take calls. They will talk to clients about how they can, about lactation, especially if they have newborn children that they're feeding, and go through all the issues that they may have while on the phone or in person. Now, the criteria for WIC is that participants must be pregnant, recently delivered of an infant or infants. Participants must have infants and children under the age of 5 who meet the income criteria. The Child and Teen Checkup is a kind of very broad program. In this part, it's part of the Minnesota Early Periodic Screening, Diagnosis, and Treatment program. Now, it promotes well child checks, immunization, dental, mental health, and periodic screenings according to the age-related screening schedule. So there's a small chart I put there. It's very small, it can't fit the whole screen. But through this chart, we can see what programs are suitable for children at particular ages. and we tell them to go for those programs. We don't check all the programs, but we advise parents that at certain ages, they should actually take the children for such programs to have screenings or checks. Healthy homes, this is actually part of the child and teen checkup, and it promotes healthy homes, healthy living conditions. As you know, growing up in a home, there are dangers. Even as much as possible, when we, as parents, we try to keep the home safe, there are certain things that we may overlook. Personal history, I had my child that put a small bead into her nose. We didn't recognize it for a long time until she complained that she was having pain. And I was really scared because once it goes into the trachea, it can cause complete cutoff of breathing. Now, these are things that we check and we advise parents. We go through a list of things and show that these are things that they can actually do to avoid accidents. So everybody is eligible for this program. Immunization. Immunizations are supplied and given to clients who are underinsured or uninsured. It is our policy that no one is denied immunization for the inability to pay. Dental health program. This is held mostly every fourth Tuesday of the month, adjusted for holidays, and it's all about ensuring that children and some adults actually have healthy teeth. It also includes fluoride vanishing. Family home visits is voluntary, home-based service delivered to families prenatally and early years of the child's life. This is all about improving maternal and newborn health, reducing child injury, abuse, and neglect, and improvement of school readiness, parent-child relationships. We use funds from that's through TANF, temporary assistance to needy families. Child passenger safety. We distribute car seats, and we also make sure that the car seats are properly inserted in the cars. You can see that sometimes we also go for some fairs to also promote these things, and we teach them that they can actually come to our department so that they can have these services. Project Harmony. This project is geared towards helping recent mothers or pregnant women who are recovering or making a recovery from substance misuse. The qualifications for this participation include pregnant and parenting mothers of children. I think that should be a mistake. That should be less than 12 years. I apologize for that error. High risk for relapse, and they are living in Meeker, McLeod, and Sibley. This is a joint program for the 3 counties. Health promotion. Now, this is not really so much of a program, it's more of a description of many programs that are brought together. And here we provide education, which is leadership for prevention and managing of chronic diseases. So promotion is just, health promotion is all about making sure that the community finds out ways or programs that can actually promote their health, and they don't lead them to having diseases that will be long-standing. And some of these programs are SHIP, which is the Statewide Health Improvement Partnership, the Suicide Prevention Grant, which is a very new program that we have right now, and MAP, which is the Meeker Area Partners in Prevention. So I'm going to talk about a few of them. Once again, I don't want to waste too much of your time. Statewide Health Improvement Partnership, SHIP, it supports community-driven solutions to expand opportunities for active living, healthy eating, mental health improvement, and commercial tobacco-free living. So you can see from the graph or the circle there, SHIP is in the middle. We use programs which are promoted by Minnesota, which is MN, or Minnesota Eats, Minnesota Moves, Minnesota Wellbeing, and Minnesota Breathe, to expand into areas like the workplace, health care, schools, and communities. And we're all, through this program, we provide funds, because there's actually some funds that are provided by the state, so that if any of these areas, the healthcare, workplace, and the rest, want to start programs that can improve the eating, healthy eating, or improve people in terms of exercise, promotes healthy environments where we are not burdened by tobacco smoke, or well-being. We can provide those grants and create programs in these places. Also, we also provide some education to these workplaces or areas so that they know what they can do or start programs in those areas. The suicide prevention is a very new program that we got. We got it last year, and it's going to be for 4 years. And here we're going to execute projects to promote suicide prevention and educate the communities on how to prevent, identify, and help people who are at risk of suicide. So in summary, we do a lot of things in public health as a public health unit. I have not said all of them, but just enumerated a few that we do that are helpful for our communities. And in summary, we get people to achieve optimal good health. But it does not start with insurances or treatment, but with education, promoting healthy practices, and giving resources to achieve good health. That is what we do in public health. Thank you.
Questions?
Mr. Chair, I have a question. I'm all about, let's get in front of it and try to have healthier lives. And you noted that with SHIP, there are funds available for communities and for programs. Can you give us an example of how those funds were used that actually does that? The end result, the end use of those funds that promoted healthy lifestyles?
Okay, thank you. There's a program we started at Groove City, which is the Groove City Community Garden. It actually has a different name. There we provided some funds for, I would say, a group of people who agreed to start the project. We got land from the church. They started planting, and right now we have members of the community that come together. They plant every year, they harvest, they give food back to the community, either through sales or free. I went there to check up with the project lead, who was telling me that there were so many wonderful stories from everybody that were happy, saying that, one, they get to do something because we have mostly the senior citizens that come to the garden to be active during the planting season. We have community members that come when they don't have enough food. They're able to get actual produce. And they also have a sub project, which is teaching people how to actually cook some of these foods. So that's one of the things that has been a product of SHIP.
That's fantastic, thank you.
And as we go through this year, we're doing a community health assessment, and we will come up with a community health plan. SHIP will be able to support those outcomes or those components of the community health plan that are saying that we need to put some effort forward to enhance the healthy lifestyle of our constituents.
Mr. Chair, thank you. And maybe this is Paul and Shakuma question both, but we talked a couple times on this about insurance is mentioned. And from an employer standpoint, you know, we've heard all this talk in the last 4 or 5 years of, you know, how we need to expand insurance coverages to employees. And, you know, we spent a lot of money in the industry to make sure people have insurance and are able to get insurance, things like this. Are you seeing this from a public health perspective? Are you seeing any fruits of that labor? Are you seeing that the percentages change? I mean, I know that can vary, but do you see any effects of that? And a good, bad, or indifferent, I guess?
Well, we have some partnerships with health plans, obviously Prime West being our largest partner, but we also have Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they do participate. And as part we receive through insurances are mostly geared towards those social service type activities. So there is some insurance that flows into our public health, it's not a lot. The intent of public health is to ensure that we're working with the community health and our community, regardless of their health insurance coverage. We're trying
Yeah, I
to
know
make
this
sure that
was
there's,
a-
yeah, we're trying to make sure that there's not a two-tiered system. You have health insurance, you don't have health insurance, and so you don't get and you don't get. And we're just trying to create that holistic community engagement that is focused on good health outcomes. As we do that, then the dichotomy of having insurance, not having insurance is reduced because you have healthier people. And that was one of the precipitating ideas and goals for us to combine into a health and human services is to maximize the efficacy of public health to reduce those other social maladies that are causing us to react in the social services realm. So a long roundabout answer.
That was kind of a long roundabout.
Is that it's not as big of an issue in our public health area as it is in other operational areas.
Okay, that was kind of where I was. Thank you.
So, and when we do this community health assessment, I think you're talking about outcomes, right? So we
Yes.
do them every 5 to 6 year, is it 5 year? Yes. So I already have in my mind what's gonna come up, but we'll be able to look at 5 years ago and see if we're still feeling the same needs, right? And I'm gonna think we probably are, so, but maybe
Well,
we
that's
met,
what- and that was
maybe
kinda
we
where my
met some, maybe we have. I mean, the hospital also has done things like open a walk-in clinic so that people don't have to use the emergency room, which is better for them as well as us, especially if they're Medicaid or getting help. So the community paramedic, I think, is helping with some of that. The hospital's talking about getting another one. So there are some things that I think we're doing, but I'm gonna be very interested to see how the community health assessment comes up. That'll give us some
That's
answers,
kind
I
of what
think, yeah.
you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
We spent a ton
We
of
do.
money federally,
We do.
statewide on insurance and programs and health and.
Right.
And what are we getting for our money?
Are we making a dent?
Yeah.
I mean, are we truly?
I mean, it can't
That's-
always be more money, right?
Right.
No.
There
no,
has to be
And that's, I
some
was
other.
wondering.
I think that we've started, I think we got some bicycles through SHIP, didn't we? So people can do some of that. Trying to think of some other things.
There's a SHIP newsletter that comes out,
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
Would you mind sharing that with the board?
Okay, yes.
So they get a chance to take a look at that and see what some of those projects are, so. Great.
And I'm not sure, but does Prime West provide the car seats, or have they in the past?
Both Prime West and Blue Cross
Yeah.
provide us car seats for children.
Which is a big item for some
Expensive,
families.
yeah.
Yeah.
And for grandmas, installation is important. 'Cause Yeah.
And operation.
And operation,
Videos,
exactly.
YouTube.
Complicated.
It is kind of, if you
It's
don't do it all the time.
way more complicated than this.
Exactly, which was our,
Uh-huh.
so, yeah,
You had the lap belt. Hold 'em up.
hanging out the window,
The padded dash instead of the steel dash.
the airbag,
Progress.
yeah.
Any further questions?
Yeah, have we thought about the effect of the change in the marijuana laws in terms of the public health of our students and our county as a whole? Is there something we can
Yes,
preemptively do with
We've had a lot of
that?
thoughts about that, and, you know,
Paul,
we have.
Paul, could you come up to the mic?
Oh, sorry. Trying to be behind you somewhere there. We've had a lot of thought about cannabis and the impact of the community. We've had a lot of pre-legislation discussion and advocacy, not in support, but now that it is here, we're looking at what can public health do as far as compliance checks. I know Andrew and some of the other folks are really looking at what some of those zoning ordinances are, some of the things that are dictated by the statute itself that kind of minimize some of the impact of the county being able to exclude it from being in the county, but it's going to happen. Meeker Area Partners in Prevention really is our focus, and it was prior to opioids. We worked on tobacco 1-1, it was Litchfield Area Partners in Prevention prior to, but it really is focused on trying to create those healthy thoughts and ideas about substances and trying to limit substance misuse, which really has a deeper end impact into our community, because we do pick up about 30% of the cost of all chemical dependency treatment as a local levy dollar impact, and that's through our consolidated chemical dependency treatment. So these are issues. Again, like alcohol, any substance that folks use, it can be misused, and that creates social problems. Again, swimming upstream, talking with moms and children, dads and children, families, trying to provide a healthy outlook, a place to come back to if they're having issues. We want to be a trusted partner. Being that trusted partner is, if I recognize I'm having problems, where can I go? And that's really how we're intending to solve this problem. Get in front of it before it becomes too big of a problem.
One of the discussions, I'm on CHB and also serve on SHAC. So one of the things that came up, I attended my first meeting, was educating on potency of cannabis for our children. And it's something I hadn't thought about, but what is the brain develops when they're 24 or 20. So when they talk about it's just a gummy or it's just that, they don't know about potency, so it's important. In fact, Paul, we had the discussion at our CHB meeting too last week about, we need to educate young people on what this can do to them. It's a bigger, it's cannabis. It's so much more than that. So much more than that. So,
Storage, all of those
absolutely.
issues. And then you look at some of the statistics of mental health issues, cannabinoids
I
can
was-
lead to more psychosis as the brain develops.
I know very little about it, so the potency part really caught my attention. And it's like, yeah, really, we don't want,
Especially if they're using leaf, there's no way
Yeah.
to determine how much you're
Right.
getting and how much you're
and
taking.
are they aware of that? And the CHB is going on about how are we gonna make people aware of that? That's gotta be part of our job, to educate the community.
Well, as a local
Right.
government, what is the state going to do to manage that efficacy? We have the
Nothing.
Food and Drug Administration.
Probably nothing.
That really manages the
I hate to
qualities of
be a-
medications.
I hate to
So,
be
these are unanswered questions, and these are risk areas.
Absolutely.
That we're concerned about.
Mr. Chair? This is, everybody has a lane, but do you have a partnership with the school at all where you can help teach at the school?
Certainly.
Because this is where the kids are, and
Yes.
so,
So we have a number of intersections with our school districts.
Okay.
That really foster a positive relationship. They have the students from 8 to 4, and we have them the other 18 hours of the day, if
Yeah.
you will. And so the efforts that we're bringing forward are in partnership with our schools. Meeker Area Partners in Prevention is really geared towards having some of our principals participate. We have a Safe Schools program where this is a constant conversation about children using and what are the strategies that they can do to eliminate that. Through our social services realm, we offer a micro grant as a part of funds we receive from the Department of Human Services to provide training for mental health and recognizing that mental health component. Our public health, as we've combined, is now more robustly engaged with those processes that are intersecting with our schools. So
Okay.
yes, they're a huge partner
Okay.
in all of this.
so a student that might be experiencing some issues with substance, will that student know what their resources are? I know ideally a parent should be their first resource, but that isn't always available. So my concern would be if there's a student that has issues and they need someone, do they know how to connect with with you or with the school? Is there a
Certainly
system?
hope So, but
Okay.
it's one of those things, as Commissioner Oberg says, access.
Yeah,
People being aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
Is something that always pops up in our healthcare assessment, community health assessment. So, yes, we're trying to make those easy. Now that we have our suicide prevention grant and we're working with MAPE in a more robust way, we're hoping that we're gonna create those lasting pathways for folks to know where to come. But it really comes down to us being a partner in the community, that they need to look at us as a knowledgeable resource, and feel comfortable calling us,
right.
right? Or going online, or any of the other mechanisms that folks can find information.
Okay, thank you.
But you said the word just a moment ago, access. How things are gonna change when we have the store downtown, the store in the next town, the next town. It's gonna be so much more available. And
Enforcement.
I hope our advertising is as good as theirs.
Well, in my personal opinion, I don't think it was the right time to legalize it, but I don't have that decision, so.
The ship sailed.
The ship sailed.
Forward.
Yep.
So our plan is we're going to use a two-pronged way of approaching this. We have two new health educators that are coming in. One that is going to handle the suicide prevention, and of course, as you know, opioid use, marijuana, they are closely related to mental health and suicide. Right now, he's approaching this matter through promoting, and he's going to reach out to the schools. The other health educator is going to go through SHIP and also handling it through the MAP program, which gets involved with safe school meetings, where we're also going to meet with counselors. Now, I was in SHIP prior to this position, and I was already meeting some of the schools to arrange for meetings where I will sit in their meetings to find out what are the problems, come back and discuss how we're going to form projects or programs to actually address some of these problems. So this is on our radar. We are really, we're ready to address this.
Is there something available for parents? I feel like the most important person in a child's life is their parent. And if they are educated and can understand what to look for, is that piece in the system? How are we educating parents?
Well, we do have, and I don't know where we're at, but we've been doing some work through the sheriff's office. They do hiding in plain sight, which is really kind of how do parents recognize if there are issues or substances
Right.
hidden in the home, right?
Awareness.
Children can be very creative, and so
Yeah.
that is one component of that, but also trying to develop other ways of communicating to parents.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what Meeker Partners of Prevention is doing, and that's where our new healthcare educators are really going to be taking the ball, as Chikuma says, trying to use a two-pronged approach, really. We're trying to capture everybody, and we're really trying to engage the community, because it's not going to be us telling people. It's going to be the community fabric that is going to recognize that this is an issue that they don't want to allow to continue. And so, again, how do we provide them that support and the resources to be knowledgeable?
Okay.
Well, I always say too that take this as almost an opportunity. The cannabis legalization is like, okay, this is an opportunity for us to present a united front with parents, with churches, with the schools, with the public health. And I went on the public health website here for the county, and it is filled with awesome resources that I just want to make sure people are aware of, and, you know, the churches are aware of, that the schools are aware of, that, you know, like you said, the group that meets, I don't remember what the name of it was.
Meeker.
No, but yeah, I'm talking about the school one though, the safe schools, yeah. You know, between that, the churches, use this as an opportunity. Say, parents, guess what? You know, pot's legal now, so have that conversation. You know, and here's some tools to do it. Here's you know, some frameworks to use. This is some ideas to make sure that your kids know about, you know, the potencies and some of the things that we may not be aware of. But to me, let's use this as an opportunity to strengthen and support our families and our kids and make a difference. And encourage the kids each other too. That's the other thing, that, you know, they know each other and what's going on much more than we do. And so to encourage the kids, you know, we're not narking on your friends, but if you got a friend that you're concerned about, let's have that conversation. Let's be a safe place for you to have a resource for us to show you how to help your friends too.
And that's why we're trying to develop being a trusted friend.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great way to look at it.
Well, thank you very much. Enlightening and good discussion. We appreciate it. So,
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Mikkel Johnson, our Human Resource Director.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I wanted to do a human resources update about our department. So there is Karen and I. So Karen is the human resources technician, and then there's myself. So thank you for the time this morning. Run this slide.
You can go.
So first up is our why. So there's a lot of different reasons that we are here, and the main word that I like to use is support. So on any given day, I can be in my office going through emails, answering questions, and someone will come to the window and they will say, "Hey, do you have a minute?" And from there, I never know what is going to happen. So I have the pictures of the hats because there's lots of hats that you have to wear in this role. So a couple months ago, that was that situation. And so the employee came in and said, "I just found out that I have cancer." And so in that moment, you are there to support them through this hard news that they just received. I'm sure coming to talk to me about it, even just getting in the car, just coming to the door, to even just verbalize that they just found out that they have cancer is very hard. And then they have fears, of course, because then it's what happens with my job? What happens when I need to be gone to get treatment? What happens when I have to be out for a certain period of time? And because they've never been through this before, they don't know what that looks like. So I'm there to help support them and let them know their options and talk to them about things like FMLA and to try and calm their fears and let them know that we're here to support them and that we care. And so that's some of the things that happen. The other things that happen are fun things, like when we have people that are really excited about openings within the county and they want to know how they can get there. And we've had 2 promotions just in the last month. So it's been really exciting seeing people that want to stay here. They already work here, they want to stay here, and they want to figure out how do they get to that next step. So we have had 2 of those in the last month. It's also providing opportunities. So sometimes we are interviewing and we'll get a candidate that has the want, has the will, but just has not been given that chance somewhere else. And so we will interview them, they will do a fantastic job at their interview, and we can just see that there's something in them that we want to give them that chance. And so we've done that, and we've seen those people flourish. And they will come back and say, "I love working here because no one else would give me a chance, and you guys did, and now I'm doing what I wanted to be doing." There's also performance management, so unfortunately, sometimes we have folks that are struggling in their positions. And so then our role in that is to figure out where are we falling short? Is it something that we can help with as far as providing additional training or support? And then we work through the performance process with that. And sometimes we see people that do really well, and maybe we're just missing a certain piece, or there's something we didn't know about until we sat down with that person and had a conversation. And sometimes that means that we can really help them succeed. We can put supports into place. We can provide all of those things, and we see them succeed. Unfortunately, sometimes that also means that we see the opposite, and we have to just help them realize that maybe this isn't the right fit as well. So that's a totally different hat, not such a fun hat to wear, but part of what comes along with what we do. And then there's also providing resources to employees. I can't tell you how many questions every day I get about all sorts of different things, so there's providing resources. We support every department within the county, so wide range of different things that people do. And then we're ensuring compliance as well with all of the different state and federal laws. So these are all the things that we do. I'm not going to walk through all of these, but I just wanted to provide a slide for that. And as well as Meeker County employees, we also provide assistance for benefits for soil and water, for the EDA, and the CHS also uses us as a resource for HR questions. I also have people that come back after they retire and ask for help and support with their benefits. And we also have people that are out on para-duty disability that we're also providing their benefits as well. So it's not just Meeker County employees. We also have additional people that we are supporting. But this is kind of a overall list of all the different areas that we touch. And I like to say the reason that we also do this is because we support people that support people. So if we can do our job and we can take care of all of these things and take these off the plates of people and do our role with this, then the people that are out being deputies, the people that are out being human services professionals, that are out supporting the public can go do their role and not worry about this piece. So this is kind of just one of those fun word cloud things with all of the different laws. ESST is the biggest just because it's the most recent. But these are all of the acronyms. Darren, I know how much you like those.
Yes.
Of all the different laws that we.
So what is ESST?
Earn, sick, and save time.
Oh, yeah.
These are all the different benefits that we offer. Again, I won't go through all of these, but just to give you an idea of all the different things that we currently offer. What I do with the benefits is I administer them, so that means that I work with our vendors and we help select what we offer, and then I work with employees. If I'm hearing feedback from them, I research what are we offering, are the vendors that we have meeting the needs of employees, and then what can we do to change if we need to. This is our current Meeker County workforce. So we have 208 full-time employees, 29 part-time, and of the 208, 133 are union employees. The reason that I have the age ranges for employees on here is because I think it's important for, one, succession planning, because as you see, we have quite a few in that 56 to 61 range, and so we have to be thinking about how retirements will affect our positions at the county. The other thing that it's important to look at is it also helps us to look at what benefits we are offering, because throughout people's life, they place different importance on different benefits. So we also are looking in the wellness committee, we're looking at doing some financial advice type of workshops. And so this also helps in that to think about what would people want to know at different life stages, whether it's just starting out, how to start saving, to retirement, what does that look like with para, things like that, so. Recruiting and retention, so we have a 11% full-time employee turnover rate. The average that I could find was between 17.3 and 20% within the United States. So I thought that this graph was informational because, of course, what happened in 2020 was the pandemic. And so you can see that during that time, we had some resignations, but most people during that time weren't leaving their current positions and they weren't being hired at new positions. They were kind of staying put. And so I think that's what this graph shows, is that in 2020, people were staying put. Then obviously in 2021, you see that we saw a higher number of resignations. So on this graph, the orange is resignations, the gray is retirement, and the blue is new hires. So we started to see more people leaving the workforce at that time. And then you'll see in 2023 and to 24, you started to see that our new hires started to increase. So they were starting to replace those vacancies that we had in 2021. Obviously, 2022, we still had a high number of resignations, but we started to see that decrease now in 23 and 24. So in 2020, there were 17 more resignations than new hires. In 2021, there was 28 more resignations versus new hires. And then that started to drop. So in 2022, we had 17 again. 2023, we only had 6 more resignations than new hires. And in 2024, we only had 3. So you're seeing a big difference in that. So 2024 in review, we had a lot of legislative changes both in 2023 and 2024. So that included earned sick and safe time, pay transparency, and wage history. So pay transparency was that we had to put on our postings what the salaries are. Wage history was what we could no longer ask candidates what their current or previous wage was. We negotiated 8 union contracts. We switched to criterion for our applicant tracking system. I had supported 3 employees with major health conditions. I've been here 7 years and I've never seen a year where we've had that major of health conditions in 1 year and 3 of them. So that was pretty significant. We transitioned to MetLife for accident, critical illness, and hospital care. We are working still, and we have updated to more streamlined new hire orientation. We have assisted departments with staffing challenges. We created a outline for leadership training. We noticed that people that either were promoted within or came to us from the outside as leadership needed a little bit more assistance with that. So we've created that. We finalized the county films, so those are on both the websites and on YouTube. And we completed an initial review of 1/3 of the job descriptions. That was through the class and compensation, the market study, and doing that. So looking to 2025, we are preparing for paid family leave. And as part of that, I am on the AMC Legislative Committee for that. So we are looking at ways that we can go to legislation and ask for changes in the current language to try and make it more easier to administer. The concern right now is just the complication of administering paid family and what that will look like with the state. There's a lot of unknown at this point. There's still a lot of chances for the language to change. Nothing's been for sure finalized at this point. But that will be a big process. We will be having to create a lot of policy language for that, a lot of different procedures for how do we handle that, because it interacts with so many other laws. We have federal FMLA, which is different, has different outlines for who can be on it, for how long. And then we would have the Minnesota paid family. We also then would have to figure out if and when that works with paid, or with parenting leave, that one's not paid, parenting leave in Minnesota, and how all of those things interact, and also if someone has short-term disability, how that all looks too. So we're gonna have to make a lot of decisions with that once we know the official language. So that leadership training that I just talked about, making that outline, then it will be implementing that this year. We'll also be reviewing another 1/3 of job descriptions. We also have some major department head vacancies. We currently know of 2 and are anticipating a 3rd. And then we will be evaluating strategies for health insurance costs. So we have a health insurance committee, and we're going to get together. Through union negotiations, we were asked to look into health insurance costs, and we told them that we would do so. So that is part of that process as well. So I know that it's a lot of information, but thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I also very much appreciate your continuing support. This has been a wonderful board, so thank you very much.
Just an FYI, you got your 3rd
Sure.
vacancy today.
No.
Well, thank you, Mikkel. We know you have a difficult job because we're all different and the employees are all different and dealing with each one and getting yourself. But we thank you for what you do and I think we got a pretty darn good staff
I think they're phenomenal.
that you have brought on. So thank you.
Thanks. All right.
We've come a long way. And, well, you're here about a year longer than me, I think, but it feels like we've come a long way in this last 6 years as far as like union negotiations.
Yes.
Sometime we'll have story hour. You know, at an AMC meeting or something.
We need no formal action on her report.
Nope, it's just informational for you,
Thank you, Mikkel.
opportunity to hear what's going on. All right, thank you, Mikkel.
Thank you.
Thank you. We've been going for an hour and 5 minutes. Does anyone need any time, or should we just keep moving along? Maybe 2 minutes to go fill our coffee cups?
We don't have much time left, do we?
No, we don't.
Let's just,
Well, it depends. You always give long reports.
Well, you can go fill your coffee cup. I'm fine with that.
during her report.
No, right
So
now, go ahead.
next one up is Andrew Letson, and then
He's on break.
He's gonna deliver.
he's delivering. All right.
Oh,
He's
are
not
you,
only to himself.
Beth, just an FYI, I will start with you for commissioner reports, so
Thank you.
you can be ready.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the action item I have for you today is a draft letter outlining concerns regarding the governor's budget recommendations. So as we talked about at our last meeting, the governor's proposed budget had some significant cost shifts to counties. We had been working for the past several weeks to try and come up with an estimate of what the actual dollar amount of those cost shifts would be. This letter here identifies what we believe to be our best estimates at this date. There's still a lot of ambiguity with regard to the proposals that are out there because, DHS and other state agencies aren't providing firm guidance on, it's going to be exactly this versus that. So we've taken a conservative approach. We've added some things in there that may or may not be included, but it helps cover us in the event that it is more on the more severe side as far as the cost shifts go. So the major cost shifts are included for the Minnesota Sex Offender Program, Disability Waivers, and Behavioral Health Fund. Additionally, there's recommendations to reduce aid to counties through the Aquatic Invasive Species Aid and cannabis aid, which we have not yet started to receive, but is our share of the sales tax that will be beginning next year or later this year. That recommendation is to eliminate that altogether. So we know that the governor's budget recommendation is just the first step in the negotiation process or the legislative process. The legislature ultimately sets the budget. AMC has been working hard to try and highlight some of these challenges and how they're gonna impact counties. But I think it's also important for us to help support that and identify to our local legislators as well as the governor what exactly the impact to us is, so that as they're looking at how are they gonna balance the state's budget, if they're gonna do cost shifts, what the impact is on local taxpayers, right? Cause all they're doing is shifting from this tax base to this tax base. We believe that the current cost shift would have about $860,000 in additional cost to the county, which would equate to a 5% increase in the property tax levy. That is for mandated services, things that we don't have a choice of whether or not we provide. In addition to that, the reduction in the AIS prevention aid would reduce the county share by about $113,000. That equates to about 0.6, 0.7% of the property tax levy. But it isn't a mandated service, so we would have some decisions to make on there of whether or not, how we would want to continue along with that work and those programs. So the AIS Advisory Committee had developed a really detailed letter that we would include as an enclosure to the letter from the county board. And that is what's included in your packet and is here for discussion for today. So with that, I'm available for any questions.
Questions for Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Andrew, are we gonna send this to AMC as well?
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
I've already shared this information with Matt Hilgart at AMC. I had him review the letter as well to make sure that I wasn't stepping on any toes and saying things in a way that they wouldn't be approval of. And he said that it was, it met with that they were looking to share, so.
And you saw, or we saw the update yesterday from AMC that actually had some testimony.
At the House Health and Human Services Committee, they did almost an hour-long testimony between Human Services Directors and County Administrators, yeah.
So, yeah, there's definitely a finger on the pulse of this one. It's got everybody a little riled up, so
Well,
I
then,
think it's good.
and Andrew and I did have a couple of discussions about this because the AIS letter is a separate committee created by us. And we didn't want to cast that was our most dominant and important thing. We wanted to make sure we kept things in perspective, that the other cost shifts are equally, if not more.
The AIS is really important, but it's a $5 million reduction.
Right.
The HHS side of things is $200 million across all counties. And so it's all equally important, and it's important, I think, that we express that to our representatives and senators, but that is and I also firmly believe that the legislative priorities are established by this body here and not our subservient committees.
And just for another impact here for our local budget, Cheryl. Welcome to the Budget Committee. As I believe January 1, 2026, we have some delayed fuses coming in too from past legislation that would come on top of this 860,000.
Yes, paid family leave is the big one that's gonna impact us. The dollar amount I've had in my head is the total cost to us would be about $145,000. There's potentially an opportunity to split that cost with employees in the same way that, Medicare and Social Security tax is taken out of employee checks. But that's another $145,000, which is, 0.7%
Of the levy?
Of the levy.
So we're looking at 5.7%?
On top of.
On top of.
On top of the operating increase that we're going to see because of, wages and material expenses, equipment expenses, all that sorts of stuff, so.
Okay,
It was under 3 positions in social services that we needed to, or what, don't we have some positions that we need to hire to implement some of this?
Yes, that's 2027. But that is,
Or bad news.
that's the
Just down the road.
African
we
American
need
Family
to hire more people
Preservation
to implement.
Act. And, there we anticipate that's gonna be about another $250,000 to $300,000 in total cost to us, whether or not it requires, 3 new positions. I mean, that's something we need to explore a little bit further, but that's something that I know AMC is working with the legislature on as well, so.
But over the past 4 years, you've been able to keep us under 4%.
Yeah.
And even better than that, as far as a levy increase. When you start out with a potential of 5% from out of the gate.
5% just from this.
Yes.
just from this.
Yeah,
We're-
if we're looking at the same target of what we've had in the past, I mean, you're probably looking at 8.5 as your starting place.
Yeah.
Before you add in, the paid family leave, we don't know exactly what that's gonna be, but you could easily be at 9%, so.
Are we gonna need protection?
You are,
Yeah.
and he's back there.
So,
I think
It's gonna be
we have to,
It's-
I think we have to stay
Absolutely.
public about this and keep talking about it at our meetings, et cetera, so people know.
I agree.
They
Why
need
would-
to know what's coming down the
And
pipeline.
they get to also voice their opinion to their legislators that it isn't us. We have mandates we have to follow, so. And of course, perhaps we'll have to look in other directions if you have your work cut out for you. But I hope we'll have a lot of discussions about it.
I agree.
as we move along.
Over the next couple of months, the February forecast that the legislature uses to have their final numbers to be able to craft their budget together is gonna come out in the next couple of weeks. Once that comes out, and it's gonna start getting real with the legislature, by the time May comes around, we'll know, we should know what the budget, the state's budget looks like and how that's gonna impact us, and that will then lead into our budget process.
And how is the federal cuts gonna affect
That's
the
gonna be-
state? That's
that's-
a whole nother.
This is gonna be a moving target.
We will hopefully know more about what the federal government's gonna do with their budget come March, because they have a funding deadline that's coming up. And, then we'll see how that impacts the state and rolls on down to us, so.
Disappointing.
Wonderful.
Is there a motion on the two letters that were in your board packet?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve a letter outlining concerns regarding the governor's budget recommendations.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Van Ort. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Samke. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And did you have an administrator's report also?
I do. So as we talked about briefly when Mikkel was here, we do have some staff transition that's occurring. 3 department head positions that are coming up over the next several months. We're currently accepting applications for the Health and Human Services Director position, which closes on Thursday. All 3 of these positions will require appointment by the county board. So all 3 of them are gonna be, interviews are gonna be done in partnership with the Personnel Committee. And then, they'll make a recommendation for selection to the county board. So as I said, HHS Director position closes on Thursday. We'll be looking to schedule interviews shortly after that. For the treasurer position, we're reviewing the job description and title on that, and we'll be coming back with some ideas for you on that. But Sharon's anticipated, or her retirement date is not till August, so we have a little bit of time to move on that one. And then, as Barb announced today, we're going to start the process of looking at the property records taxation election manager and starting to work to post that position. Because we merged the auditor and recorder positions, frankly, not that long ago, I don't think we need to take a deep look at that job description, but we'll get moving on that. A couple of other staff transition news is, as you recall, back in January, we authorized the recruitment of an assistant veteran service officer in lieu of the technician position. Happy to announce that we have hired somebody. His name is Tanner Eberling, and he starts on Monday. Very excited for Tanner. And then I just approved the hire of 2 new corrections officers as well. So we're short only 1 corrections officer and short 1 deputy
Great.
at this point. So Sheriff's Office is getting close to being fully staffed, which is great. Last thing, we are gonna have a work session next week. We have a couple of items for discussion. We have discussion about the future of the transfer station, as well as, we talked about this briefly when we had a conversation about opioid funds a while back, and that was Family Resource Center. We're gonna dive into that a little bit deeper. As you're gonna hear next week, we've done a lot of work over the past for several years on out-of-home placements for children. We've gotten to a point where we've really reduced our out-of-home placements, and there's a direct associated cost to the county for that. The next step in that is to now shift on focusing on reducing calls for screening, and FRCs Family Resource Centers are being used across the state as a tool to be able to help with that process. So, Kirsten Langerman's gonna come in next week and talk to us a little bit about that and how we could potentially pursue something there. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Andrew before we move on?
Andrew, did you go to the cybersecurity thing in St.?
Yes.
There's a reason they didn't bring it up.
Paul and I went to that.
Sorry,
I'm kidding.
I didn't make it.
I
Yes.
didn't either.
Didn't miss anything.
Paul and I went to that. there was two, well, there was actually three sessions that we could participate in. We attended the first two, both of which were on Wednesday, both were half-day sessions. The first was, it was good information. I think it was at an appropriate level for senior managers and, board members such as yourselves, talking about risks surrounding cybersecurity and some basic things that we can be doing. The second session was focused on risk analysis, and there's a conversation that started about critical thinking, and I found that part to be really interesting. The second half about how to do the risk analysis, the calculation and whatnot, was above my head. And so that, I did not gain as much from that one as I was hoping to. If I worked in risk management directly, I think that the discussions of tools and things like that would have been a lot more pertinent to what I was doing. That's okay. And then the next day was about using cybersecurity in tabletop exercises for emergency management, and that is also above my head. So did not attend that one. So there was, I think, from Paul and my perspective, a little bit of a mixed review on it, just because I think that particularly the afternoon session we were not the target audience for it.
So there was an emergency management section on cybersecurity.
Yes, on Thursday morning.
Is that, that's a high level piece, but I mean, that's a
Yeah.
concern.
And the
Definitely.
focus was on bringing cybersecurity events into your tabletop exercises. So basically, how do you plan for these sorts of events? How are you drilling for them so that when something does occur, staff are prepared to be able to handle it? It's,
So Rob was not at that?
No, he was not at there.
I think what really lured us to go to this was the fantastic presentation that was put on by MCIT a year
Yes.
earlier.
Yep.
That was just, you didn't have to be an IT to get the meaning of that particular presentation. As Andrew said, over our heads, sometimes, they're talking a different language than what we can talk.
Yeah.
It's a concern. I mean, that's.
He did well on his test, though. He got one wrong on the first test and one wrong on the
One
second.
wrong on the second. How did you do, Paul?
No, I didn't, we're not gonna discuss it.
Is this where they asked for your personal information?
Yes, yes. And I just got my social security number wrong, so they'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'm
Paul
sure.
and Holman had to bail his long-lost nephew out of jail. Texas or something like that.
Well, they had a,
Answered one of them phones.
they had a pre-test and a post-test. And I did worse on the post-test than I did the pre-test. Oh, well.
Oh, well.
Is that it, Andrew?
That is all for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Beth, you're up.
All right, so I had a few things. I'll try to keep it short. So I attended, as I said, my first SHAC meeting, that's State Community Health Service is advisory. I did it remotely. There was a lot of talk about, the board I'm on right now, about the funding. And people are nervous about WIC as well as the SNAP programs. 50% of public health money that comes in here is federal. That comes to the states, so that's a whole nother ballgame, so there was a lot of talk about that. And also, as I stated earlier, talk about cannabis and the effects on our children, how we have to educate on potency. People, we went into small groups, so it was interesting about where people are in their ordinances, and they're kind of all, not all, but they're kind of in limbo, knowing. There was something about, if you have a social host ordinance, which we do, we're adding cannabis to that.
We haven't had that conversation, but
Well,
that's a good
It
question.
was a good idea that I heard in one of the small groups, because I said, well, we have one, so, and then other people picked up on it and said, maybe we should get one. So maybe that's something we can think about doing. So that was that. We had some talk about mental health and not enough money, the usual stuff. They went around in the foundational grant that everybody, money that they got extra last year, there was a lot of talk about where that went. Most people hired people to take on different causes with public health. Then also, Paul and I had the 3-county board meeting. We went over, we did our election of officers, just did our bank designations, it's things that we have to do annually. And I think one of the most interesting conversations was, we had a study, I don't know how many years ago, about fully integrating to our public health board. In other words, the 3-county board would become one, and Meeker would not have their own public health. There's a couple in the Horizon is one of them that does it now. I always forget their name, but Liz, I know her, anyway.
South Country?
South Country.
South Country.
So there's some of them. And for some reason, one of the counties has, and we spent, by the way, a lot of time, and time is money, studying this, and decided it just wasn't for us. But there's a voice out there or two now that wants to start looking into it again. So we're gonna look at it kind of at a higher level from the exec committee. I think that Kaiser has the ability to get a grant. The problem is, when you put all that time into that, it takes away from work that we probably should be doing. So, Paul, did you wanna add to that? I don't know. I mean.
No, that was my first meeting, and I think I'd be best not saying anything.
Okay, so I gave my opinion on it, and we'll see where it goes. And I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, but I can't imagine anything that's changed since we were studying it. Do you remember how many years ago, Brandy? Was it 5 or? I mean, it's a while. I think they said, but I can't remember, so. And, you know, anytime you lose control, you lose control. So when you lose your. Yeah, so it's just something to think about. Then we had an audit update. The auditor was there. That was been, like all small boards, has been a struggle to get someone to finish the audit, but they did. Kaiser did a good job with it.
There was no
Everything
major
was fine. There
deficiencies.
was no major deficiencies. It's become very difficult with smaller boards to find somebody to do an audit, so. But it's done, Clifton Allen Larson, and they're gonna do it again next year, so. I had a finance committee meeting for the hospital. They had a good year last year. They had what was it,
5.1.
5.1% profit, which is pretty high. Hospitals are generally in the 2-3. They had a nice settlement come in from Medicare, so we discussed that. Of course, like anything else, things are up for debate. Everybody's worried about funding, like the 340B, which we do a lot of. The pharmacy, we get a lot of rebate from. That's been a discussion for a while. So the usual concerns. Yesterday, we had our regular board meeting. We talked about our new mission statement and values presentation. It was very good, I thought, didn't you?
Except for the colon and the semicolon, we were
Colon
fine.
was in the wrong place. We had a strategic planning 2 months ago, or a month ago, whatever, it was 6 weeks, and she's already putting it all in, and it's really interesting. Good. And they've really done a good job, I think, so. As I said, we went over our goals for 24 and 25. And then we got into discussion about adding on the clinic. We made a motion to move forward to get the schematics, the plans. The architect will be getting that hopefully by May. We saw some of what we hope will be the final plans, which includes going across Lockerbie. I'm not even gonna get into it. It's a whole bunch of stuff, so. But we're moving forward. I think, can you think of anything else, Paul? Paul was there also, so.
No, you got the major items.
Yeah. They've been working hard to not have as much turnover, and that's been happening. That's better than it was.
Yeah, we're down to just 2 travelers.
Is that all? Yeah, because during COVID, we had and travelers are expensive. You need them when you need them, but they get paid more because the firm gets most of the money. And then if you have to have a traveler, say in, I don't know, for delivering babies, because we don't have the training, it just gets expensive. So the least travelers, the better. And we went over quality, and our quality has gotten really improved in the last year. Our quality scores have gone up. The input from the public has been wonderful. I just think there's a lot of positive things happening at the hospital. Mary Ellen and her staff is doing a wonderful job, and I look forward to some good things, so. And I think that's all I had.
Okay. Commissioner Van Orn?
Well, that was a lot, so this will be less.
Don't tell me you didn't have any meetings.
Well, Darren and I did meet with Willie Swanson, and he would be the final of the department heads. So we've met with all of them, and they've given us different tours of their areas, and overall, very positive, and I know I've said that before, but it seems to be a very healthy atmosphere. The employees are positive, and so that was very good. This week I will have extension meeting this afternoon, HRA, and then UCAB. So it'll be a little busier for me this week, and so that's it.
Okay. Commissioner Samke.
Let's see, last week, met with the Mid-Minnesota Development Commission in Ridgewater. We got the whole tour of the place. It was pretty interesting. It was fascinating. It was a whole different group of people that was from, I don't know, it was probably 5 counties. It's a pretty good-sized outfit. Eric Day, the executive director, and I have been bouncing around because I'm supposed to have had an orientation prior to my first meeting. But our original schedule was on the 20th, where I'm planning on being at a Mastering Collaborative Decisions for Team Success in Sartell that day. So we moved it to last Friday when I was ill, and I called him, and he'd just as soon not come into my house while I was sick. So
Don't
we've
blame him.
scheduled that for this Friday. So once we'll get that taken care of. But it was an interesting meeting in light of, I think, some of the people's perceptions of what Ridgewater does in terms of like their trade education. Because I'm very well personally connected, having had a son who graduated from their electrician program. And, they tout it pretty strongly, but the fact that this, good kid who went through their program cannot find a job is a little tricky. And people were very shocked when I said, hey, that's just the reality right now, is that electricians are not hiring apprentices.
I thought that was one of the fields that everybody was hiring.
Yeah,
Plumbers.
they don't wanna deal with apprentices.
Wow.
And so that's been a real issue, in my personal household. And so they were kind of surprised when I kind of
I'm
just
surprised
said,
to hear
hey,
that,
that's
too.
the deal.
I know something looking.
Do you? All right, let me know. I got a kid for him, so. Also, and this afternoon, we've got the MAP meeting at noon. Paul and I are giving blood after that. And then tonight, I'll
Such
be.
Boy Scouts.
Two Boy Scouts?
I'm teasing.
Do we have a badge for that?
They're just great.
Yeah.
these guys.
I'm gonna have a.
Steve, what time are you giving blood?
Well, we will have a badge, won't we? With a little red.
I'm gonna keep my heart. I gave blood. Be nice to me is what.
Watch out, it might tip over.
That's why she got you early.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, before I got my sticker. Tonight I'll be, I'll be at the Dassel City Council meeting tonight. I think they're roasting me or something, I don't know, since that's where I came from.
Usually when they ask you to be
I
there.
bet they have something they want.
There's
Perhaps it's a plaque,
yeah,
perhaps
something
not.
like that. Because they said last month it was supposed to be there, but they said it's not ready yet, so.
There you go.
But I did tell them, I says, I really do expect that I'd give you guys a report a couple times a year. So that's kind of a good opportunity to further those connections and be resources for each other and work together, because that's, one of the things I'm all about. So, and then, we've got AMC Legislative Conference is next week. Who's all,
I'm not, I don't
I'll
think.
be down
This 3 right here plus Andrew.
there. I actually will have to leave early. I have to be on the 25th on Tuesday. Depending on what our work session is, I might have to leave a little bit early on work session day. 'Cause I gotta be down there by noon on Tuesday.
gotcha. Yeah, because I got testimony training at 3.
Is
Figured
that
why not?
Tuesday too?
Correct.
Yep.
So that's what I've got.
By the way, Mr. Chair, Brandy, we elected a new legal representative for CHB. I tried to have them keep you. I said you loved doing it the last 5 years, but they decided you didn't have to do it anymore. That's how so everybody knows that's how we do it. We pass it around, so.
Who is it going to?
McLeod, I believe, wasn't it?
Sibley.
Sibley? Was it
Sibley.
Sibley? I can't, I'd have to look at my notes.
Their billable hour is less than ours.
So they pay the CHS to use that?
I think they do it, how many years have you been, I think we rotate.
5.
Is
They
it
said you'd
5?
been in 5.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that there was a rotation.
I actually was, I guess I didn't
Didn't let her
realize it
know.
either, but when I think about it, they do a lot of things that way, so anyway, a little less on your plate,
When did that become effective?
I suppose.
Immediately.
Immediately.
As of when? I just had an email
Last
from.
Friday, Thursday.
Last week, last
Whatever day it
Thursday.
Why, you
Sure,
didn't
they'll let
you
you
didn't get your termination notice?
No, trust me, I
Then
checked
you-
that email.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm sure they'll let you know.
Yeah.
So,
And I was just gonna add to Darren's, discussion on MMDC, there is a lot of people in the room on the MMDC board, because you have, township affiliates, I think 1 per county. You have county commissioners, you have city, representatives from, every city within its 5 counties, I believe. So I mean, it's pretty quick to get 40 people in a room pretty fast. So MMDC is a broad group too.
Right.
Broad cross-section. So you get to learn quite a bit in there as you move forward. So
I'm looking forward to my orientation. So,
I never got one.
MMBC,
MMDC,
Minnesota Development
Corp.
corp,
Corporate,
So it's-
is it corporate? Oh, I thought commission.
a little bit above EDAs, if you will, or it's something that EDAs and local communities can apply for
Collaborate,
different things. An example, I know, Eden Valley used MMDC for, a comprehensive plan, to drop a comprehensive plan. They also offered, and at the same time, they're like half as much as like a private company was for developing a comp plan. And then at the same time, we were able to get a couple $3,000 grants through the fire department, so it's different things like that, so, that's just an example of how they work with local communities on different, various things, and it's another, grant resource, if you will.
it's another piece of the economic development.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
A little broader, regional,
Okay.
regional, or we, I guess, how I
Okay.
would describe it, so. Since last meeting, well, we had a drainage conference up in Alexandria, 2 days on the 5th and 6th. You know, some of it was repetitive, but there were some good things in there. One of the things that stood out to me, and, Commissioner Doug Kruger from McLeod County brought up, or we talked a little in depth off to the side about, these, retention ponds and things like that, where you have, big water events that maybe flood out 40, 50 acres of farm ground, that they're building 10-acre retention ponds, maybe in a portion of the field where they can hold that water and manage it in big rain events. So rather than losing 40 or 50, you set aside that 10 permanently. He said they've actually worked pretty good.
He talked something about water rights there, if they wanted to use it for, or was that just a?
I'm not, yeah, I don't know the details on it. I'm sure there's, there's funding, there's different ways, I imagine land rights, who keeps the land rights, and that's always the gray area. If somebody funded it, if the state or federal government's funding it, putting it in, they're gonna have some say in how it works too. So I mean, I'm sure there's drawbacks to it as well, but, just something that I've talked to a few commissioners with, bigger farm, Kevin Papp down Blue Earth County, or bigger farmland areas where, they've utilized it in certain areas, certain conditions too, would make benefit. So that was one of the things that I, took out of there as a positive. I've been on this 2911 work group, DOC work group, and 2911 is a rule for, for all jails, right? Inmate population, and it's been a little bit, I'm concerned, is the way I'm gonna put this, because it's changing the rules for the way we handle prisoners, how they check on them, different things, a lot of it spurred from we had a inmate up in Beltrami, actually his dad is on the calls, he committed suicide in the jail, and so his dad has been in this work group with us as well. Difficult conversations, obviously. A little concerned because it feels like, and to me, we had 2 meetings like a year and a half ago, and we didn't have anything. And now we're starting up again here, we're probably the 2nd or 3rd meeting in, and it kind of feels like the cake is pretty well baked, and DOC is running the show, and I'm concerned because I'm used to red lines if we're having a Zoom, and you know what, this is what's proposed, this is what we want to change in the rules. We're not getting any of that. It's like, well, we'll take that into consideration. So I don't know, there's not a very good gauge as a participant as to, okay, are we adding something? Are we taking something out? What is this gonna look like? And at the end, is this a vote on up or down? It's pretty bland.
So they're gonna invent some more mandates for DOC which is gonna cost us more money, I'm guessing.
And more staffing, I mean.
That's where we struggle already, so we may have to take another look at what we're doing.
And that's the challenges I'm concerned sitting on the committee that at the end, it's just gonna look like,
You're here, but you don't get to talk.
well, you don't have a vote, so
Right,
at
that's
the
what
end,
I
is
mean.
it gonna look like, well, all these people sat on this committee and they approved this?
Even though you
And
didn't
right
vote.
now, I'm not sold that I would vote for what we're doing, because I'm not in consideration of this, Brett Huber Senior, who lost his son in jail. I mean, and he actually made a pretty good statement last meeting. I was glad he spoke up. He wants to see things get better, but, I'm not certain that we're heading in that direction with this process, is the problem I got. I think we're adding more rules. I mean, we spent a pretty good amount of time in the last meeting, talking about the meaning of words and changing, words.
Semantics.
And it's tough to sit there and not say anything for me, but at the same time, I don't know where I wanna go with it or how I need to approach it, so I need to do some more, I'll do some more homework before the next meeting, so that's probably the most challenging thing I'm sitting on right now. Then I had, on the 13th, I had a noon meeting with the City of Eden Valley EDA and Lisa Graffentine, kinda looking on some few businesses called and wanted Lisa and myself to come in and sit down and look for opportunities there and try and get Lisa involved to see if we can find some funding statewide. Infrastructure is always a big piece in these small communities, and get some targets there. So that was on the 13th. And then today we have Extension Committee at 1:30. It'll be the first meeting of the year. And then I've got AMC Futures, which I didn't really know about. Meeker was never involved in it, but now I'm on the executive committee. You get placed on it. But basically, it's 3 times a year, and it's a day and a half in St. Paul, and strategic planning for AMC. So even in the future, it might be something that we need to keep a commissioner on, so. And then next pledge conference, so. That's all I got. That's all I had.
Okay, thanks, Steve. ProWorks meeting, we're still sitting in a very good financial position there, although we've been doing a lot of infrastructure repairs. Small bites. We didn't take it all on at once. First, we did the vehicles. We've gotten those all, so they're fairly new almost. Some of them are even brand new. We've done new windows throughout the building. badge readers and door alarms and take a weather like yesterday and today, how important that is to have that notification when a door opens. Because if a client was walking out into that weather not prepared, with a jacket and so forth, it could be very dangerous. So all of those things we've upgraded and gotten it to a point now where, the projects are becoming smaller and smaller, which is a good feeling, because we were not in that great a shape as a building before, so that's good. As Steve said, we were at the drainage conference, and a lot of it was repetitious from what we've seen before, but you always come away picking up, like Steve said, a bit or a piece or something that you don't use at the time, but then when it does come up, you go, oh yeah, I remember discussing that at the drainage conference. And Kevin Papp and some of these folks that have been through some real events, it's fun to, and informative to hear what they've gone through. Because of course Kevin had the Rapidan Dam
Yeah.
up there and what a mess that was for them and how that changed so quickly in a matter of hours. So they gave some good presentations. They had some good groups up on the stage of county commissioners talking about how they've handled situations within their counties. So that was good. Thursday, I had a Prime West meeting. Financially, they're moving along just pretty much as predicted. They had expected to lose money last month, and they did. It's just kind of that disenrollment that's going on, and until we get past that curve, we're probably going to lose a little bit more for a couple, 3 months yet. But, you know,
I mean, I
karma,
think they budgeted accordingly.
we planned.
It's hard to know, but they knew some of this was coming.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's one of the reasons we didn't have community reinvestment.
right.
Was we held back and said, no, let's prepare for the worst. And that's the way they did it. One of the things that they have requested is for access to the DHS data warehouse. Currently, they have data in DHS that our people, our staff in Health and Human Services have to put in. They have to turn around then, if they are a Prime West member, and put it in a second time. So if they would give Prime West access, all 24 counties could put it in one time. And we wouldn't have to, and they would be able to access that information without them putting it in an additional time, which should be a work savings.
I'm gonna guess they're putting up a fight. 'cause
Oh,
they-
yes.
They just
Yeah.
don't, I don't know why, but they just,
It doesn't make any difference what we ask for.
no, they
It
just
really
don't wanna
doesn't.
cooperate.
And now we have an interim commissioner of DHS until that gets finalized, so, and we still do not have a decision on the lawsuit. That's still hanging out there too. So karma will still be, you're gonna hear karma every time we stop at somebody at the legislative conference, because I'll make our pitch on karma, just like I always have, because it's so important. It would be so good for us. Also, was in another county again last week. They have their Prime West sign up. I know, Andrew, I've been twisting your arm on that. And he even put his arm behind his back right away.
I saw one up too, and I think we should have one up.
Yeah.
We're a proud member of Prime West.
We're an owner,
We're
not
owner
just
is
a
what I
member.
meant.
We're an owner.
Owner.
So, cybersecurity, enough's been said on that one. I don't need to go any further there. I will say I did not give it a very good ranking when I did the
You told
review
me
at
it
the
wasn't
end.
very good, but you didn't tell me you flunked the test.
Did I say anything about flunking?
Andrew said it.
Oh,
I didn't say, I just said, I just asked, how did you do, Paul? All I asked.
Oh, gosh.
God.
Opportunity only
Yeah.
comes once.
You gotta take it then, right?
Then we had the CHP. And as I said before, I'm reserving comment. When you go to your first meeting as well, you guys have felt that too. It's like, okay, what are they talking about? You know, you kind of got to get to
It's
that
a
point
lot.
where you're comfortable. I did glean enough out of it. I'm not interested in total integration whatsoever.
I don't think
That
that'd
I
be a good
gleaned
thing for
from
us right now.
that little bit, so. Then on Friday, we had a Southwest 18 meeting down in Marshall.
Did you get a new chair?
No. I have been reelected for another year. But it was a really good meeting. Participation by the counties that were there. I think we had 14 out of the 18 counties present. We said we cannot have a meeting once a year. An annual meeting's not going to cut it. With the kind of dollars that we have, we need more. And the recommendation was to go to quarterly meetings, and they were all in favor, and I think that's great. Otherwise, you have the executive committee made up of myself, Corky, and Rick Anderson, who are approving everything until the next full meeting for ratification. So, geez, what are you gonna do? You approve a contract, it's signed. What if it wasn't ratified? You know, not that that's going to happen, but there's always that
You know, the
opportunity.
money is too big to only be, you know.
Yes.
I agree with you.
Yeah, you can't have a small amount of people controlling that kind of dollars. So, but just a real discussion and participation by every one of the commissioners that was there, which was really nice to see. Because sometimes you go to these meetings and there's very little participation. So it was good. Beth has already discussed the hospital. And that, I just want to compliment the chair of the hospital board, which is Beth. Last night, we had a packed agenda. We had a full 2 hours worth of work. And as chair, to manage that, that was one of the best meetings we've had as a hospital board since I've been on for 4 years.
Thank you.
We
Thanks.
covered a lot of ground. We did it efficiently, and nobody didn't have an opportunity to give their voice if they wanted to.
Yeah,
But we
it
had
was-
a very
everybody was
good
engaged, which
meeting.
was nice.
Yeah, we saw engagement, so. With that, is there any other business to come before this board?
If I may, Mr. Chair, is this, joint ditch meeting between McLeod and Sibley?
Yeah.
I won't be there.
I won't be there.
and Paul won't be there. He wants to get nominated.
No.
For something. He said.
Well, I'll be there, so I will take care of that nomination.
Nominate Paul. He's
I don't
gonna-
think there's anything at that one I can get nominated for, is there, Barb?
No,
Okay,
We'll cover for you.
yeah.
I think we do have to, well, you need a chair for the meeting.
You need a chair,
Somebody.
but generally, it's.
Doug has been the chair, I imagine he will remain the
Randy's been
chair,
the chair, but he ain't there anymore, but Doug.
It doesn't really
Yeah.
spread around.
yeah.
The only other thing I had sent out that email, just that follow-up on that bid that was so far out of whack. If
Yeah.
Yep.
But he wasn't upset. He just said, I just covered it. He said, I haven't bid a lot of county work, so he said, I wanted to make sure.
Well, it was a good question, because when they're
It
that,
was-
I wondered if they were bidding the same.
And I wanted to, I actually
Absolutely.
reached out to him, 'cause
Yeah,
I don't want him
absolutely.
sitting there brewing and I
No.
not know about it then too, so
a
we had a
good
good
idea.
conversation. He just said, he goes, I just bid it to take old dirt out, haul it away and bring new dirt in, and
Yeah.
he said, 'cause I didn't wanna get caught, he said, so.
Good.
And I did notice that you have yet to reply to my reply to that email.
Oh, I do have that answer for you.
Okay. Any other business? Hearing none, we are adjourned.
Did you see that?